supposed to take the makers off the table, but it's too late now. Might as well take a sip.
I did not see that coming.
Oh my
it's
God.
the lore. It's the mystique of it all.
We're still doing it. We haven't been cut off yet.
Holy shit.
Good job, buddy. Nice job, Daniel. Good job, man. Keep that rod bent. Keep that rod bent.
I mean, people used to get so scared of them, they had to shoot them.
Yeah, that's true.
But because you literally can't stop thinking about it. You know, you can't scratch the itch enough. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Spot Burn podcast. Today, Josh and Dan here, you get a chance to sit down with Hunter Dorn. Love to see it. We're excited to have him. Guide at Musky Fool, owner of Wisconsin Fly Fishing Company. We're going to chat about 2023 season. Hunter covers a lot of different species, really all of the big ones here in Wisconsin. So we're going to get into all of that, what worked, what didn't, fish stories, mishaps, plans for next year. We got a lot. So thanks for tuning in. But first, quick sponsor plug. Big shout out to sponsors. Came on board right away out of the gates with this podcast, Stealth Craft Boats out of Michigan and Cortland Line Company out of New York. Use both of those regularly. As we've discussed, love them. Also, we're going to talk about the guide season. And for whatever reason, if you find that interesting and want to get in the boat with us in 2024, Hunter's one of the guys. Absolutely recommend it. You'll be having a good time, that's for sure. And the fishing, he's one fishy dude. I don't want to spoil any of the goodies because we're about to get into it, but I'll let you guys make the call on that. But the calendars are going to be opened up by the time this airs. 2024 starts really right out of the gates in spring when temperatures get warm. To give us a shout. Without further ado, Hunter Dorn, what's up, buddy?
Hey guys,
good to see you.
For finally contacted.
Yeah, dude, we had to get organized. We moved the podcast studio.
Oh yeah.
I don't do enough of these. We're gonna try though. We're back in the saddle.
Yeah, I mean between guide seasons and holiday season, everything else, it's been a little bit of a lockdown lately, anyways, for everybody. I'm sure.
Yep. But good to have you. So, I guess we're gonna jump right in. Let's just talk about. Give us the highlight. What was the best fish story of the season? What was your favorite one, at least?
Man, there's a lot of them. My season usually starts kind of late January. I start chasing trout, and then from there, in May we switch over to smallmouth, and then September we switch over to steelhead and muskies. And still probably just one of the greater fish of the year was a 43-inch muskie caught by Wayne. It was one of the Musky Fool trips that we did this year.
It was. I remember it.
And a fish just came out of nowhere after probably a good 15, 20 minutes of griping about whether or not we thought the water was too high. So it was pretty epic for it to hit like 10 feet away from the boat and then refuse netting a few times. Finally did get it in. He was like, nope, it's too big. I don't even want to touch it. Like, you hold it for the photo.
Really?
So, yeah, that one was pretty epic. I mean, we definitely got a fair share of really nice smallmouth and really nice trout this year, and hooked a couple of really nice steelhead. But
that's the one that sticks out.
Yeah, I mean, each species really has its highlight. You can have numbers days, or you can have just an epic fish day, and usually they don't happen on the same day.
And I would say generally probably as a good indicator, if the fish is too big to hold, that's about as good as it gets.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we taped it at 43, but in the video there's a bend to it. So it had to have been over 43. It was a great fish. It was awesome.
And you guys caught a couple of that because that was a couple days with Wayne, wasn't it?
Yeah. We had 3 days. Every day they were putting fish in the boat. So it was a riot.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because you had a little Hunter, of course, just like showed up on the Musky Fall circuit and just always just consistently crushes it. He's like, I haven't been musky fishing all summer. You guys are idiots. I'm here now.
Yeah,
prime time, baby.
Just do what we do.
I love it. So you were kind of talking about some other things. There were highlights, trout. Talk about season a little bit. I guess really start us from the top. What kind of as the season went on, and what were some of the changes, especially that started to happen early season?
Yeah. So every season I try taking bookings for almost the whole year, and then just depending upon what the weather does, sometimes we have to bail on plans. But this year was really phenomenal. Like, our trout fishing was great. We had a few really cold days. and really windy days. But for the most part, we were in the raft the whole time, throwing streamers. We really don't have a dry fly game on the floatable stretches of water. So, yeah, then, as May hit, it got really warm, and I just contacted my people and said, hey, it's getting warm. The trout aren't as productive right now. Let's just go smallmouth fishing. And we just pivoted and went smallmouth fishing and started cleaning house right off the bat again. Frogs were definitely my best smallmouth fly most of the year this year, even though the water was really low. The water was low. I guess that's like the biggest thing.
How did it? Tell me a little bit more about, like, without giving away the nitty gritty, but like, what were the indicators that the trout were not happening and that smallmouth were going to be, like, where was water temps? You said water temps or air got a little bit warm.
Yeah, the water temps, like down where we do most of our trout stuff. Though the daytime temperatures were getting to low 60s, so it was a good time to get out. And then all of northern Wisconsin got at minimum 60 inches of snow last year. So when we got those high temps down there where the water was low, places like Eau Claire here hit 70,000 cubic feet per second in town, which is historically, it's amazing to watch that much water come down a river. But as they started to recede, watching gauges, we were just able to kind of figure out. We did a couple of days down in the driftless where we started at sunup and then took a break in the middle of the day and then went back out in the afternoon, and those worked out all right. But the fish just weren't happy with it. The temperature changed. They didn't get rain for almost the whole month I was down there. So that really changed around a lot. But yeah, it.
And it's a window too. It feels like that's I think one of the themes that I like. We're going to talk about today is just like you seem to be really tuned in to trying to find those specific patterns and windows, and not just pounding them over the head. Whether it's any given species, like it's this time of year, right, we're going to go trout fishing because it's trout fishing.
Yeah, and it's kind of tough. I get a lot of first-time customers too that it's kind of tough for them to understand that they can't book their smallmouth trip in April. But really what I've just done over the years is try to figure out if the fishing's best for this, then that's what I would want to do. So I'll try to make sure that my customers have the best experience they can by doing what they want to do, which for the most part is just learning fly fishing or learning a new tactic and catching fish. Yeah. Nobody wants an 8-hour casting lesson.
Yeah, unless right. Unless until it gets later.
Yeah.
But do you get a lot of people that are against that? Like they're just, I mean, we didn't see them through us, but it was like, no, I want to go trout fishing. It's this time of year.
There's every once in a great while, there's somebody that, they don't even make it through the booking process because that's their mentality. But I think once they call around, they find out that it's just not the right scenario. There's tons of trout fishing to be done if you're walking and waiting. But if you're like a lot of my customers, you get, stuck in the mud, you do that a few times, maybe you fall down. I've got guys whose wives won't let them go fish by themselves because they've had close calls, like falling and a stick hit them in the neck and stuff like that. This way you're in a boat, you're contained. I have you casting and standing where you should be standing. The other nice thing about the boat is it throws almost no mud, unlike wading would do. And we're covering miles of water versus just, a 100-yard stretch and then trudging our way through the snow back up to the truck to try to warm up. We're out there for the whole day, but we have the boat and the equipment to carry whatever we need for the day too, which is fun. And then the same thing goes for smallmouth and musky. I mean, there's times of the year where, depending upon the temperature or the dissolved oxygen in the water, you're going to get more active fish or you're going to get more fish. Like one way or the other, you're going to either find a more active fish in July would be a smallmouth if it's a normal hot July. But yeah, there's still musky there. So that I think is where the hiccup is a lot, is it's hard to do multiple things at once. Josh was on a trip or two with me this year where it was like, I really want to get a muskie. And it's like, we can't even can't even throw the flies into the water that we're throwing into. And then by the end of the day, if you get one muskie, maybe your buddy in the other boat got like 30 smallmouth. And then it's like, well, maybe next time I should just fish for smallmouth. But, it goes both ways. Once September hits, smallmouth fishing slows down, muskie pick up. You could go out and fish all day and catch 2 smallmouth, and you could have multiple bite-offs from muskies eating your smallmouth flies. So it plays every direction.
Yeah, I think it gets a bad rap as almost like too exclusive, but it's true. I mean, if you can cast proficiently, you're not going to see a lot of fish. So the success ratio is just kind of terrible for everybody involved.
And there's also, they're not like out west trout either, where in a mile you got 13,000 fish. And then when the water drops and those fish are confined to even tighter spots, then the weaker ones or the ones that get sick of dealing with the competition all start to span out. So maybe you've only, there's stretches of water that I do that during the fall, they've got a lot of muskies in them. During the summer, they've got like 2 per mile, maybe 1 per mile. And that's just where you got to play with it. But
Yep.
Being in Wisconsin, if we don't like the water in one place, we can just drive a half hour the other direction and hit better water. So.
And you cover probably the most ground too, that at least of anybody, like between the folks that guide for Musky Fool.
It's pretty much everywhere except for the Northeast.
Yeah, and you get pretty darn close. Once. Yeah.
I go to the Brule, I go to Milwaukee, I go everywhere.
Yeah, no doubt.
I will say those Wisconsin trout float trips, those are probably the most special things you can do on a float trip in Wisconsin. It's not like one of these Western states where you have all these options. You're one of the only guides, if the only guide I can think of, that offers these types of trips in Wisconsin. And they're so much fun. Like, it's the first opportunity of the season to get back into a boat and start fishing streamers. B, it's generally pretty dang good fishing. It's a ton of fun. And like
you even had it on a really crappy weather day.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of joining Hunter.
Got like 2 inches of rain.
Oh, it was so fun. Just like, you spend years walking and waiting in Wisconsin. You don't even consider a float trip a possibility, but Hunter's out there actually doing it and offering these experiences. It's super, super awesome.
Well, and what I like too is like kind of figuring it out. He's not just out there pounding away at like the one beat. It's like, no, you've gone in there and there's like a pattern, you talk about some of the hatches that you run into, the timing that you're there, the water temps you're looking for. You could go to this spot in July and you won't see a lot of fish. And that, I think, to be appreciated, especially from a guide's perspective, because anybody can put a boat in and row down that river and probably bump into a few trout. But there's a difference, and that difference, I think, personally, is important.
Thanks. No, I totally agree with you. Yeah, there's definitely people that try each year. Some of them
everywhere too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it happens everywhere. I mean, that's kind of the biggest reason I picked the area that I do that in is when we were living down in the Driftless area, we were getting guides from Chicago and everywhere coming into the area to fish. And then by the end of one season with that, I was just like, where can I just go where I won't contact anybody else? Like, maybe it's not going to be great there in July, but it's awesome there in April and May.
You got other things to do in July too.
Yeah.
Was there anything like drastically different, big challenges this year with the trout season before we kind of get into the summer stuff?
No, it wasn't too bad. It started off
sweeter, a little bit shorter maybe than years past.
It was actually it actually extended a little bit. I've got a couple of buddies that let me stay at their house, so now I don't have to stay in a tent anymore, which is nice. It's really nice. But yeah, the overall, the trout fishing, we only had maybe like one weekend where the water got high and blew out. And other than that, we were able to fish. Yeah, right. We were able to float anything. It was a riot. It's a good time.
What kind of gear are you guys using in the boat for that stuff? Because it's not your traditional trout drift setup.
No, it's not a 4-weight. We're usually throwing like the saltwater edition 6-weights, so they've got the fighting butt on the back of them. Kind of going to switch over, I think, to the Scientific Angler, those mini
Sink tips.
The mini sink tips, yeah.
Yep. New line for anglers. Yep.
Yeah, I currently make my own sink tips out of the
legendary Hunter Dorn.
Yeah, just the little 2-inch or the 2-foot sections, and those really do a great job. A lot of like the intermediate and sink tips I was getting just didn't dive fast enough. So with that, just a 2-foot section, a T14 or T20 on the end, it just plummets to the bottom of those pools, which is a big thing in there because it's all sand and mud. So as you're coming around a corner, you just have a ditch to fish in. And if your fly's not going to get down there, it's not going to get the action out of the big fish. It'll get a lot of little ones.
Yeah. How do you rig your sink tips? Because I know we sell a few. I've used a few of those, but you kind of have I'm sure a special way of setting them up. Like kind of just briefly, what are you using on that? How are you welding loops and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so they're a welded loop. I got one right here. Rio makes the material. It's their level T welding material, and I just cut them into like 3 to 4 foot sections, weld each end, and I put a really big loop on them. That way, if you're fishing and you get one that gets all knotted up, you can have flies pre-set up with 2 to 3 foot sections of 10-pound test, and then you can loop them right in and just pass the trout fly right through the loop. So that really has been money. The only downfall with these guys that I've noticed is occasionally they'll get a wind knot in them, and then it's impossible to get it out. It like grips.
Yeah. So some of the thicker, like I know the SA ones, the airflow polyleaders are a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
Nice. Pre-rigged too for folks who don't want to weld it, but hunters are pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And then 10 pound is kind of the business end to
10-pound max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How big are we talking for streamers?
I mean, it'll vary. So it really depends on the fish that you want to catch. Like if your goal is to get 1 million of them, then just throwing a top, or not a top water, like a regular woolly bugger. If your goal is to get a big one, then you're going to throw something a little bit more like this. Yeah. This is basically a Buford, but tied with synthetic materials, mostly craft fur, and then a little bit bulkier head, so you get a lot more kick out of it, but you don't get the floatility that you get out of the bucktail. Floatability. That's what I was looking for.
Do you get any trout in the boat side on that figure 8?
We've gotten a couple of fish on figure 8s over the years. Yeah, it's a riot every time because it's just mass chaos. It's like, holy, what do I do? I strip the leader in, and it's just like, just keep moving it, like just keep it going somewhere. And it's a good time. Josh might have even had one close to a figure 8. I can't remember. Josh or Jake, one of the two.
Probably. That day was so much fun.
I think that we got a 2 years ago, a 26-inch brown. It ate one of those on a figure 8 right off the bow of the boat.
Not in Minnesota. Wow, that's a big one for the list.
That's a bruiser. Wow. Yeah. Hunter, back to the equipment that you use. I was hoping you would shed some light on the Echo Gecko with the Skagit line.
Yeah. So there is another fun thing. I've got a lot of guys, as the water warms up, we'll do little soft hackles, and I've got a Echo Gecko, the 4-weight, the old school yellow one, and I've got 150 gram Skagit head on it. And that Skagit head will just launch, and you can swing right in front of all the log piles and all the rocks. It's a riot. If you don't have one, you need to get one. It's pretty goofy, for playing in the yard
and fun at the same time.
Yeah,
I fished with one, but they're hilarious to cast.
You have to learn how to cast all over.
Oh yeah. It's got a lot of the same feels as a glass rod. So on our dry fly days, a lot of times if we go walking weight or something, we'll go throw that guy. But yeah, it's a riot. It's like fluff.
Did you do any walking weight trips? Kind of just, do you have to do anything kind of as like a backup maybe?
I do some, yeah. It's a good backup. A lot of times, if the river blows out or something, then I'll talk to the guys ahead of time and make sure that they're cool with it. Usually, I try to make sure it's 24 or 48 hours, depending upon what their hotel room cancellation situation is. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, the walk and wait trips you usually do good on. Yeah, you run into a few more people and you're spending a little more time in the car than you are, physically just fishing the entire day like you do on a float. But a lot of guys, that's exactly what they're looking for. They'd like to go chase them with streamers one day, and then maybe the next day just go sit on a corner and see how many fish they can catch on a dry fly. So it's all
a little
good.
bit different direction. Without giving too much away, how important is boat position on the trout stuff you're doing?
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
You're imagining yourself as a waiting person, but the boat has to be where you're waiting. So it's constant. And then you're worried about whether or not your back cast is going to end up in the tree or the customer's back cast is going to end up in the tree. So it's constant. You can't even wear a hood. You got to keep your hat, back so you can make sure casting lanes are all clear for them and they're all set to go. It's an all day affair.
Probably lose a sweet trip too for a single. I know you did a couple. Musky Fool guys. I think you got to fit with Matt. And that's like because you're just probably setting them up all day long.
Oh, it's just constant. Yeah, the back angler usually at midday will switch out. Some days the morning fish is better though. But yeah, so usually we'll swap out front to back of the boat. The big reason we don't do it a whole lot is because it's one of those Stealthcraft Hooligan XLs, and you really got to like crawl through the boat. If you were to get out and walk around, we have like a silt clay that gets on your feet that basically have to use like a potato scrubbing brush to get back out of your boots. So we just try to keep our feet dry the whole time.
And you can't get them out of those hooligans. I love them, but that is like one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you can clean awesome. The toothbrush and it still won't be perfectly clean.
No. Luckily, I've got a couple of car washes, and any muddy day, the boat goes straight in there on my way back. So it's
what's your boat takedown program for that?
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, honestly, the hooligan
hunter tricks up your sleeve.
Yeah, like the hooligan, I can't imagine a better boat for what I do. Except for maybe a hard boat, but then they would make so much noise coming through every time you go across a riffle or anything. It's just bang, 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 and those stealth crafts, they're just stealthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I usually will go through while it's on the trailer. I'll unhook all the straps. I'll go underneath the back brace, and that's like a perfect weighted point for my raft, and I can just lift up and lift it off of the boat, and then I deflate the floor, pull that out. I rehook the tubes up and slide it back on the trailer so the whole thing sits at an angle, and I just power wash it until it stops making muddy water. It's really all you can do. And then the whole put back together, you're soaked by the end of the day, but in my mind it's worth it to protect the fisheries. I also don't change bodies of water without washing the boats either.
Yeah, that's an absolute must. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like that's what I don't love about them. I love 99% about them, but like that 1%, I'm just like, you can't avoid some of it. There's no way you can get that thing.
No, and even if it was a self-bailing raft, those ropes are still going to hold whatever invasive species for 5-6 days before it's fully dried out. So. Yep. There's
that crevice under the floor, underneath the floor, in between the tubes. It's just a dirt cone, dude.
Yeah, that little.
Yeah, it's just
all sorts of goodies.
There's a chew from 2 weeks ago.
I have thought I had this really ridiculous plan that if I were to take garden hose with holes in it, or like irrigation garden hose, and put it in there, pump the whole thing up, and then just leave that the spigot by the back so you can just hook it up to your hose while the whole thing was tilted and just flush that part out.
That's a pretty good idea. The power washer isn't cutting it for me.
That's right up there. It's right up there with my hot hands or hand warmer thing on your neck. we're working on that.
Is that part of a day in the boat with Hunter? Is a little back massage and a little hand warmer?
Like what? Yeah. What can I come up with to make my day better? Now, how great?
Wow.
We're gonna get off subject here just for a brief moment, but they make women's sports bras with phone pockets in the middle of their back for carrying their phone.
So that's part of the checklist for the day is you got to have the hand warmer and the women's sports bra.
But why doesn't the industry make a heater spot right in the middle of your back, just a pocket right there?
I think there's a Sims. I think the G something has a pocket back there.
Does it really?
Or a little clip it onto your fly fishing vest.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Bring the vest back.
If you're in a buff, you could put it in your buff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
or
go.
Female sports bras, preferably.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I'll wear a bro. How about a bro?
Yeah.
Can we get a sports bro with one?
Yeah. So back to the massages that come. I want to hear more about this. No.
Man, you're very tense today.
Really?
You need a massage.
I need a massage. All right. I do need, we're going to transition into bass a little bit because we're going to try and keep moving. But before we do that, I'm going to take a bubbler break in case anybody needs something. Josh, I'm sorry in advance.
That's fine.
This is no attempt to get a bubbler sponsorship. It's just a bubbler refill.
That's all right, Dano. And we're back, folks, from Dan's bubbler intermission. Sorry about the little detour there for a second. But what were we talking about? I think we're segueing
about to leave
into
the trout world. Yep.
Talking about massages and how they coincide with bass fishing.
Yeah, I mean, bass fishing definitely isn't a follow the indicator down the river all day. You're throwing, you're hucking meat, you're throwing frogs, you're throwing poppers, you're trying to hit tight spots. There's a lot of massaging probably goes on. It's one-on-one. It's yourself massaging your own forearms, but
Self-care.
Bass elbow.
I mean, just fishing self-care. So
yeah.
Can you walk us through your self-care morning routine, Hunter?
You had previously mentioned, Hunter, that this season the rivers were very, very low. Were there any new techniques or new things that you learned fishing bass specifically in low water this season versus previous years where we didn't have to worry so much about levels and whatnot?
Yeah, we're going on probably like a 5-year drought, even though the local news only wants to really talk about the last 2. It's just considerably each year gotten lower and lower. So
they just do that now, Hunter. It's just the last 2 years are always drought, and then
only 2 years. Yeah, if it was before COVID, we're not going to pay attention to it.
Exactly, before COVID
or before Trump. Yeah,
no, it's totally true.
Anything like that. Yeah. I feel like a lot of my last couple of seasons, anyways, once we got past our spring high water, which usually ends about mid-June, and then we start kind of scraping bottom. I would say a lot of it has switched over to launching poppers as far over the deep water as you can, and then extended like a pop with a really extended weight. And then usually not popping it again, just a wiggle or something later on, because with the lower water, like I talk about with my customers a lot, but the death from above factor, like the eagles, all the stuff that would get you if you didn't have a roof over your head. And they don't have a choice. Like the banks or the cover along the bank is either out of the water or almost out of the water. And then they're not protected. So they're going to go find deeper water. And that's just kind of the way it's been the last couple of years. Find the deeper water. Or a big thing that changed this year was finding water that fluctuated, but on a daily basis. I found a couple of sections up here by me that every day, right around noon, all of a sudden the water was like 1.5 to 2 feet higher. So then it was just determining whether or not you had to be there in the morning, or if the temperatures were really going to be super high and they needed oxygenated water anyways, then we just waited until the afternoon, which hasn't been the end of the world, but this year, hopefully stepping into a jet boat, that'll change a lot of that around. Instead of wait until noon, dragging the raft across 100 yards of rocks to finally be able to fish. We'll be able to wait till noon, and then we'll just be able to zip right into right where we want to go, hopefully. So that's kind of the big change in my world. The hooligans staying around. The harder fiberglass drift boat is probably going to be finding its way down the road here soon. And then I'll be stepping into a jet boat so we can hopefully have more fun than we already do.
That sounds awesome.
Go fast.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that. We talk about next year. What so bass, it's been a challenge, it sounds like in a good way a little bit. You've had to figure it out. It hasn't been easy going.
Yeah, you had to figure it out a little bit. I feel like for the most part it was watching flows and then watching your moon phases and trying to hit the right time of each day. And it seems like with the low water and the hot water, they're right on the only thing that is always going to be the same, and that's the moon phases, which is great. They have apps now. You can look at what it's going to be in 2 months. You can look at what it's going to be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You can look at what it's going to be in Bend, Oregon. So if people are going on a trip and you want to look at ways to book trips, whether it's with us or anybody else, download the app, look at it. It'll tell you where it thinks the best moon phase is going to be, which from what I've seen is pretty dead on. And then from there,
slow days.
Yeah, and then from there, I mean, that's something that you can control, though. When you're booking, you can look at those dates, and that's one thing that you can control. We can't control the weather, we can't control the water, and we can't control the fish. But that's a variable that sometimes, I mean, over the last 2 years, I've been trying to compare it really closely. Usually I try to compare it in the afternoon when I'm done fishing, just to see if everything lined up versus being like, oh, I'm only going to go between 1 and 3 o'clock. Because as a person who rows the boat, we don't have that option. But it'll, like I said, hopefully that'll all change stuff too, where
if it becomes an option, though, the massage plus just fishing from 1 to 3 o'clock.
We'll bring the massage gun right out in the boat. Yeah. Fire up the grill.
Lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. So I personally, I mean, the smallmouth fishing this year was different, but I don't think we caught any less fish.
Yeah, you guys got some big ones too. Well, and that's when. How many did you guys fish together? Because you had a few groups.
Yeah.
At Tom's house.
We probably did like 4 group trips, I would say, maybe more.
Yeah. Yeah. The group trips are a riot. I mean, I personally can't think of a better way to spend time with your buddies than
get a couple guys
getting done at the end of the day. Yeah. I mean, Tom's got like a private bar, and he cooks for us, and it's right on the river. So that's pretty beautiful. Otherwise, I mean, even the hotels in town, we get people all the time that are just fired up. Like, oh, where are we going tonight? You're like, which restaurant? Where should we go? And it's a great way for folks to get back together. It's not, camping in the middle of somewhere. It's not driving 3 hours to your next fishing trip. It's just all right here, right local.
If you just look at it from the math perspective, I feel like it's the best option for, like, you should just book a guide if you're going to do that with 5-6 buddies,
Oh, yeah.
As much as I feel biased saying that, but just the gear and the weather and the time and all the variables Hunter's going through to be like, we're going here because I've been out on the water for 25 days and this has changed and this has changed.
Yeah.
And this is, if you're optimizing for, we just want to float a little bit down the river and, smash some beers. Yeah, do whatever you want. But it's definitely, there's a degree of care that I think is pretty sweet to see guys like you take to some of that fishing, which is why they have such a good time. Tom's the same way when he's hosting. He's quite the host.
Yeah,
he's all about it. I love it. I love Tom. Tom's little Riverside Bogies camp is a riot.
It's with the rod shop and everything. He's a good cook too. Great cook. Sauna.
Got a sauna.
I hear if you buy a couple of rods from Tom, he lets you sit in the sauna.
I cannot confirm nor deny that statement.
Yeah, I know. I've been in the sauna a couple of times.
I need a sauna.
He has some incriminating photos that hopefully he never shares with the world.
Might be part of that self-care we were talking about.
Yeah,
I think it's just part of his. He likes acquiring a little blackmail on you.
Yes,
he's got it on quite a few people, I'm sure. Being a bar owner.
Yeah, A bar and sauna owner.
Yeah. And fishing rod owner. He's got some fishing rod stories too, where people just
Oh yeah.
like he sends me some of the pictures that get sent back to him in the warranties or repairs or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, where did you put this thing?
Yeah.
What is on that? What is that?
Trolling motors. Yeah. Oh man, when I used to work for Orvis, we used to get the craziest ones too about like this dog. You know, the guy wrote up this big story about how this like attack dog attacked him and broke his teeth. It was his own lab in the car that broke the teeth through. But it was great. It was like you read it and you just laughed and giggled, and it was like, yeah, let's send this in and see what they do.
Still gonna charge you a repair fee.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. What
No
do you have any like crazy little mishaps, little like I love guiding, you know, sarcastic, of course, stories this season?
One incident that always sticks out in the back of my head is the flat tire at Tom's. Like we're about to. I think that was those guys drove all the way up from Chicago, and right when they got there, the tire went flat. And so
there was a hailstorm on their way in, and then they pull in just as food's getting served, and then one of the guys, Mike, went back outside, I think, or something to have a smoke, and found out that his tire was just leaking air. So then before dinner, we all went out there and with the mosquitoes and changed his tire on the wet pavement. It was a riot.
And then one of the other guys, Kurt, he got Mike's tire fixed during the day while we were floating. And then when we were done, it was all ready to go.
Host with the most, man. He does a great job.
Yep. That was good. This year, I didn't have any personal crazy things that stuck out. Maybe the previous year I did a couple times, but how about you, Hunter? Was there anything memorable from this past year that was out of the ordinary?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing out of the ordinary with my guide season was truck repairs. That was that got me bad. But yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, people fall out of the boat once or twice a year. We had a couple of those. Luckily, it was into sand. But yeah, I mean, there's always opportunity for a crazy story. But I felt like everybody kept themselves like pretty in line this year. You know, there's only so much as a person rowing the boat from the, I got one. I had a guy pass out this year. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's right.
Like drunk, tired, or like
just
fainting?
Like fainting. It was like 90 something degrees, and he just all of a sudden, like mid cast, his arms dropped, and I heard him mumble something. And at the last second, I just started to kind of get up, and then he just started to tip to the side, and I managed to grab him and get him back in the chair.
Mm.
And then once he came back to, we just
wake up.
Yeah. There's another reason for a jet boat. Once he came back to, we had to fire up that little 3.5 and dodge a bunch of rocks, try to get him to the landing, and so yeah, that was
harness on those rafts for some of the people that I think end up in them, in the front of them. Like, you know, like there needs to be like a
contemplating bungee cords or something.
Yeah, they're stable. It's humans that aren't stable, which I'm one of, by the way. I've been known to fall out of them. So
and then was it Jake that fell out of my boat trying to set the hook on that muskie at the end of the season? That was
Jacob.
Yeah.
Jake did that.
No, not Fields.
Jacob Hurley.
I think so. I can't totally remember the name, so maybe it's not great that we're mentioning it. But
no, it's not Jacob. He's good at standing. I know him well.
Yeah,
he would be a faller.
This big beard guy.
Another guy.
Yeah,
man.
I'll have to look it up. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. Like the world's most perfect figure eight coming around. The fish had already vanished, came back out from underneath the boat. The fish came back out. He went to set the hook and just bloop, right off the other side.
That's way more impressive though than when I fell out of the boat trying to set the hook on a brown trout. And so that sounds like a little bit more justifiable.
Yeah.
I don't really know how I explain myself.
Yeah, at least the water was warm. He went for a swim afterwards. It was like lunchtime. He's like, I'm wet already. What do you? And I was like, go for it, man. Baptize yourself.
Yeah,
that was good.
Pass a little bit. Sorry.
No worries.
We haven't talked about muskies yet, and we're just like getting ready. Gear. Talk to me about gear. Especially, did you make any gear changes as water temps water levels have been low for a while, and maybe sounds like a little bit more finesse or changes in tactics. So what was the gear you're running? Soup to nuts?
For the most part, it's a 7 or an 8 weight. Most of the time, it's a bass bug line, whether it be the Mastery series or really whatever series that SA comes out with, and then also used the what's it called, the Jungle Titan taper a bit. That comes out. Yeah, that thing just launches flies. So it's a riot during like that late time of the year when you're trying to cover water, but you don't want a sink tip that's going to take you down a rock, move you around the rocks. You'd like to still be able to see the fly. That line came in super handy, and it handles hot weather maybe better than the bass bug. It's pretty ridiculous. And it's almost two line sizes heavy. So when you go to cast it, it just pretty effortlessly just launches flies, even bigger ones too.
Are you using any sink tips for bass? Or did you have to? Probably in the boat, but do they get used quite a bit in the ways you're fishing, or is it mainly floating?
For bass, not so much. There are definitely times when I do use them though, like throwing frogs. If I've got enough water to be able to throw a frog along the bank, I want to be able to hit the bank, get one dive along the bank for it to come back for air, and then once that dive is over, if nothing eats it when it comes back up for air, then when you start stripping, it dives right away. So it's really nice for that aspect, keeping deer hair underwater for those short, for the most part, when you're fishing a frog, you're only fishing it like 2 or 3 feet, and then you're throwing it again at another target. So how are you going to get that fly where you want it in those 2-3 feet is kind of the biggest thing I have to deal with sink tips. But they don't get used a whole lot during the summer, no. Mostly just trout, and then when we start fishing for muskies in September, I'll throw those on an intermediate too, so it kind of pulls them down.
Let's say you got somebody who fishes with you for trout, and you're doing that. What's some of the biggest changes that they have to make, or that you find yourself like talking to them about once they come out with you bass fishing? Like knowing that they're both streamers, only a 6 weight and a 7 weight, not a huge difference. But I imagine there's differences in what you're talking them through and what you want them to do, and basically, how they should be fishing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of our smallmouth fishing, it's longer casts. Kind of the beautiful thing between the two trout to smallmouth is all of a sudden you don't have to worry about your back cast because there's no trees right there, except for on some of the smaller rivers that we do. So, really, then it's just kind of it's changing stuff up slightly. It's your strip gets a couple of strips and then a pause, whereas with trout you're really just kind of trying to move it quickly for the most part once it sinks down to that area. Smallmouth, you're giving it a pause, you're letting it stop and glide or do whatever it does, float and just drift. And it's nice that way because you can do like a lot more screwing off, like you can cast and let a frog hit right along the bank and pop it out. If nobody eats it, you can make another cast. You can let it just drift for 10 feet until you get to something that looks better. And I think that's maybe the biggest part when you're trout fishing. There 98% of the time there's something to throw at, whether it be a log or a rock or a drop off or an undercut bank. And when you're smallmouth fishing, there are times where you just sit. Like all right, well, if we're going to go here to that side of the river and it's 100 yards away, there's really no sense in standing and casting and doing all that stuff. Just sit down. Like just smallmouth is much more relaxed, I believe.
Longer days, warmer weather too. It all just feeds.
Yeah.
Nicer.
And my God, like if it's going to be 90 degrees and the water's going to be 70, bring something you can swim in because it's beautiful. Like it's nice. It's probably the most invigorating thing you've felt since you were 12 years old, since none of us swim hardly anymore, like
I don't think you want to see what I like to swim in, Hunter. You might
to actually get out of a boat though at lunchtime and swim is just like the best break. you're just fully recharged. That's my biggest suggestion. Bring stuff that can get
people
on
struggle with?
purpose.
What do you think people like? What's the thing that you have to? What's the hardest part of getting people to, getting folks to like get it done, or what's the hardest part about the fish or how it sets up for bass? Because what I'm trying to get at too is I think there's a misconception that we hear, just like you're going bass fishing with a fly rod, it's going to be easy, it's bass.
Oh,
and it's
no.
just like there's so many reasons that's a no, even when it all lines up.
Yeah, I mean bass are one of those things, kind of like trout fishing, kind of like nymphing, any of that stuff. If you go out with the goal to catch as many bass as you want, you'll catch a couple. You know, because you can go and just sit in one spot if you've got a little deep spot and try to catch the 2 or 3 that are in there and stay there and harass them. But it's kind of the same aspect I treat almost any of my fishing. If the fish isn't going to eat, then we just move on. Like we're gonna go on to the next spot. You know, I'm not gonna sit there. If we see a fish circling in this pool, we're not gonna sit there and really wait all day on them. We're gonna try to fish for active fish, and if they're not active, which they all go through periods of time where they're not active. There's even days where bluegills won't eat. So I mean, it's tough in its own right. You know, then you're dealing with the wind, the moving around on the boat is another thing. Sometimes that really throws people for a loop, not being in a smaller, confined place like where you're waiting. I guess I don't really picture a boat as being a confined place because you're moving along, and that disorients some folks. Moving along,
Yeah,
see all the rocks and all this
it like hurries them a little bit.
Yeah, and really that's the biggest thing is like smallmouth fishing. I'm not going to say it's easy. But you just have to think about it a little bit more. If you were going to go out and catch, you know, that's kind of what I'm trying to teach people while we're going down the river is like, well, how is your minnow swimming? Does it look like a really healthy minnow, or is it really frantic, like it's worried, it's looking around? If it was a minnow, would it be looking for the predator that was chasing it, or is it just kind of like milling around looking for something to eat? Because on those days when the fishing's really hard, if the fish feel like they haven't been detected, you'll catch a lot more of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think it just speaks to that like expectation gap. Like bass have this, at least up here with a fly rod, this brand of, it's just kind of like laissez-faire. We're going to, you know, it's bass fishing. We're going to get them. And that's not how it is, coupled with like but it gets you in this mindset of like, yeah, I'm gonna have a stogie in one hand and a drink in my other hand, and you know, we're just gonna catch bass, and it's like, not really. It's not a super hard thing, but if you come into it with like, you make it difficult, make it more difficult.
Yeah. I mean, and really, it's, you know, I bring up with folks too is like just practicing your casting. A lot of times when you're floating down one of those bigger rivers, you're the only thing, you know, left or right of the bank that they're going to see all day that's floating on the surface. So as much as bass will watch you float by and let you, you know, do what you're going to do without spooking, they know you're there. Like at least a 30-foot cast. Would be really handy. And then on the days, honestly, the days that we crush them, it's 60-foot casts to 70-foot casts. If people can lay them in by a log and they don't detect that the boat's there, then they're going to eat.
Do you find that they're, especially with the low water, more spooky than even what you're doing in spring with trout?
Oh yeah, yep. Even stopping your feet around a bunch in the boat will freak them out. You know, it's like
the slapping of the rubber, if it rocks sideways, those hooligans. Yeah.
I mean the raft. A lot of the times we do better fishing out of the raft. It's just harder to put sometimes, you know, older gentlemen or anglers, women, men in the boat because it's just harder for them to stand and balance a little bit because there's just a little bit of give. But man, I get a lot of my guys just to go barefoot.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's, and you definitely want to.
Yeah, it's a stand-up paddleboard or the drift boat. I mean, everything we use pretty much is barbless catching or barbless, and We do all catch and release.
Yeah.
So there's not, it's not like your dad's Lund with the carpet in it where you got to worry about picking up a worm holder hook from spring walleye fishing or something. At least that was my
10 years ago. It's
Yeah,
the hook from 10 years ago. Yeah.
yeah. It's all rusty and full of tetanus.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What? So you're probably looking forward to the jet boat, especially for smallmouth, as you said, because it'll just allow you to be a little bit more precision factor goes up.
Yeah, it'll make it, much more of it's always been a guiding situation, but I feel like science is coming around a little bit more behind it. And it'll just kind of open it up to being like, this is the best time of the day. This is where we should go. I'll meet you here. Midsummer, if it gets really crazy hot, maybe I'll start doing half days or morning and then break for lunch and come back at 3 until dark or something like that.
Bigger water that it'll probably allow you to explore a lot of stuff you've had on your list a little bit too. That
bigger water.
Really exploring as quickly in a drift boat. I know that feeling.
Well, yeah, and then with our droughts that we've had too, the low water allows the stagnant water to get algae and mud and muck and all that crap built up in it. So, granted, only a couple of times this year I really had to worry about it, but when the water bumps up, say we get 4 inches of rain and the rivers all quadruple, they just turn to mud. So it's going to be nice to be able to go to lakes too.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest thing you just don't do with a rowboat. So.
No, not unless if it's over 100 acres, and even then.
Yeah.
I want to close out on bass and get to muskie a little bit, but I guess before we do that, what if you had to, like, looking at the bass season and looking at muskies, if you had to go, what would you rather have? I guess would you rather get skunked bass fishing or skunked muskie fishing, or what's harder on you?
Oh, I'd rather get skunked muskie fishing any day of the week. Because I don't know, they all fish have like a certain temperament, each species, and then in between the species, even sometimes you'll get the same smallmouth out of the same pocket every single time, and you'll know how he's going to eat, or you'll have the same fish get missed because he just blows up on flies and it scares people, and they don't set the hook on him. So at least when you're getting skunked on muskies, it's a fish that doesn't necessarily always want to eat, whereas like a smallmouth, you usually presume if there's enough room to fit a penny in, they'll still eat.
What about you?
Yeah,
same
100%.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I knew the answer for myself. I figured you guys would be the same, but I think when I tell that to people in the shop or when we're booking a trip or we're just talking to people wherever, that's the like, oh, I get it a little bit more. Like, no, it sucks getting. I'd way rather be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. You get done with a day of smallmouth fishing. Let's say you got like 3 or 4, and you were really expecting to get 20. At the end of the day, it's like you feel bad, like you should refund money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day of musky fishing, you're just like, well, it's musky fishing. Yeah, I guess we're just going to give him another shot tomorrow.
Exactly, and that's like, why they're so interesting and different is because people just like come in. We do it ourselves, not just like people. We come into it with different mindsets.
Oh yeah.
There's an exception. There's some folks who definitely go into musky fishing like I want to at least see one. I'm like, just out of I'm telling you.
Well, you don't you don't start your day thinking I want to at least, like you do start your day thinking I want to at least see one, but sometimes it just doesn't end that way for you.
Right. Well, and that's
the downfall.
That's like the most optimistic that you usually find people. The state that they come to musky fishing in is like the most optimistic is like, I just want to at least like see a few.
Yeah.
It's still too optimistic.
Yeah.
But the most optimistic I feel like that people come to bass fishing is like, oh, I want to catch 621s.
Yeah. We've seen the Instagram. They're all 20-inch water, aren't they?
Yeah. 100. Should we get out the fish counter? And it's just like, no one's really going into it like, yeah, I just wish we would get skunked. And I'm telling you, I think more people should because they probably catch more bass. Yeah,
I'm telling you, out of like 15 years of guiding, I don't think I've broken 100 fish maybe twice the entire time. So yeah, that's, and I think overall the average really ends up being about 25 fish. Some days you do better, some days you do worse, but 25 fish I feel like is 15 to 20 is an average, decent smallmouth day.
Yeah. Still got to keep your head in the game to get it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Summer's
You got to
over.
be a real ninja. All right, I have to go to the bathroom.
Over. The bathroom break for Hunter. All right, and we're back from break number 2. We got to work on our old men bladders over here.
It's
Yeah.
the bubblies. We really got to get like some
Bubblies.
sort of funnel situation underneath the table. You could just pee in.
Incoming funnel, a bubbler, and an outgoing funnel of urine.
Yeah,
They have those for NFL games, the bleacher buddy.
and NASCAR.
Yes.
We could use that in the boat.
It's classy and
You got like the full waders on. You just see urine come out and go back down. Like,
It's got like a bilge hole somewhere near the knees or something like that.
the sideways zipper.
There you go, Sims, Grundon, Squala. Do you want to make the
Yeah, Reddington.
waiter? We need a also maybe a shit compartment where you can, like a flap.
Oh, yeah.
Waterproof flap.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'd pay $1,000 for that type of waiter.
There was when I worked at Madison Outfitters, there was a guy it was like Salmon Steelhead magazine, and they had all these like little helpful hints for people. And I remember Palachek pulling me aside one time and saying, "Hey, I want you to read all these helpful hints." And one of them was a guy, I think maybe on the Deschutes, that wore Depends. And he was like 35. It was so that he wouldn't have to leave the run to take a shit. It was just like, he's like, if I ever poop my pants so I don't have to get out of the water, just go ahead and drown me right there.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. No, I'll shit over the boat. I'll shit in a live well, but I'm not pooping in my pants.
Don't shit in a live well. It doesn't wash out.
It's like it's a fish.
maybe if it was like a 57-incher that I was guaranteed to catch, I would stay there and do it. But
Maybe you could put a garbage disposal in your live well.
Yeah, I haven't shit. To be clear, I will choose no. I will not shit in my live well willingly. I know of a few people who prefer the live well approach.
Think of the places you could be with that garbage disposal in there, and you could just blend up a sucker and just straight into the water.
A mouse that just comes into your lines, and you grind them up. Like
you could turn it on for a couple of seconds and just blend up a bunch of shiners.
Wow. Like the fourth thing we need to trademark from this podcast episode.
And then
it's like a
come out the
ninja
bilge pump as just like a pellety, like a shiner spice that just comes off your transducer.
Yeah, but in your live well.
Yeah, but I want to release it into the water then too. I'm gonna drain my live well I'm gonna create like a musky smoothie in my live well with the blender that we're talking about.
Yeah, but doesn't your live well have a plug on the bottom of it?
Yeah, but they take the plug out and then it goes out.
Well, yeah. I'm saying all we need is a thing where, like, when you flip your live well on, instead of aerating it, it turns on like a little blender motor.
Yeah.
Just,
no, I'm saying we need the blender to make the musky smoothie to then take the plug out of the live well and deliver the musky smoothie. Are we back from the podcast? Are we taking another break? Do we need to cancel this? All right, let's talk about musky fishing. Jeez Louise.
We've gotten interrupted.
We've gotten interrupted. All right, it's fall. When do you start transitioning into musky? When do you get the itch?
September or the first couple of cooler nights. So that's really kind of, usually it's mid-September is when we get those first couple of nights where when you leave, you wish you had like more than a fleece on.
Yeah. You're on the tipping point of I'd rather be musky fishing than bass fishing right now.
Yep. Yeah. And then it's usually because on those same nights is when the smallmouth usually just kind of vanish. They either go find deeper water or they go, down towards the reservoirs or wherever they're going to winter, and they start making that route. I think a lot of it has to do with frogs, whether or not the frogs are going to stay up in the upper river, or if they're going to start finding their way down. Leopard frogs overwinter in that leafy debris you see on corners and rivers a lot. So a lot of times, if that's where they go, that's right where the fish will go. And even muskies this year, I saw that periodically. You'd come around a corner and there'd be a broken down leaf pile on the right side, and then you got your pretty picture perfect big deep spot on the left. and they're almost always hanging off of those leaves. And I think it's maybe a portion of it is for those frogs. It's the easiest meal.
Interesting. When was your last smallmouth trip this year? When did
September 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we lit them up, but it's a section of water where the fish don't go back to a reservoir. They just have to tough it out. And it's a section of water where there's muskies in it too. So started off the morning. I'm pretty sure we started off the morning muskie fishing. And then after about an hour or so, we started seeing stuff happening underneath the undercut banks. So I was like, all right, well, and we caught them on frogs.
Yeah.
In September.
Where's your, like, as a guy that's been doing this for a while and kind of fishing a longer calendar than I think in other states will, guides in Wisconsin will, what is your headspace at come September? Like, you haven't even yet started smashing your head against muskies yet, and you've been guiding for a while. Where are you usually, like, you need a little break? Do you take a little time off, fish for yourself, or you just pedal down right through it?
Usually I would just pedal down. This year the rear end of my truck went out, so that shut down for another week.
You will sit at home.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, usually what happens in September is I just start putting a 10 weight in the boat. We're still fishing smallmouth. We're still fishing smallmouth on, pretty decent sized streamers again. So then a lot of the times if that gets bit off, then you've already got your wire rigged on your 10 weight and you can just launch. Usually, I mean, a lot of guys go for smaller flies after they've had an interaction, but in that time of the year, they're just looking for another meal coming through. They're trying to either bulk up, or I personally think it has a lot to do with the oxygen levels in the water too. As those temperatures start cooling, oxygen gets stored in the water a lot better. Usually turbidity drops off once the water temps get down around 50. And that usually just is when it happens. That's when you're going to find some of your best musky fishing of the year, and then also be able to mix in some smallmouth, which is nice.
Are there other spots that you talk about where you see kind of muskie setting up and smallmouth setting up as the smallmouth are maybe transitioning somewhere else different from the muskies? The muskies are kind of transitioning in, for lack of a better term, but they're on their transit.
Yeah.
Like, you running into a lot in different spots, or is it a lot of crossover?
It kind of stays about that same. It just really depends on if the fish migrate. If the smallmouth have to migrate, then usually they're kind of just gone. Josh and I ran into that kind of later in the summer, even with the low water levels, that they just migrated early. Some rivers, they migrated in like mid-August this year because the water levels were so low. But for the most part, the muskies, they migrate to an extent, but there's still going to be, if there's a deep spot there that has food in it year round, that fish is probably going to hang out there. There's a few of those spots around. And then
they're migrating to different destinations is what it usually up as.
Yeah, either they're working on getting up underneath the dam, or they're working on getting down above a dam.
Yep.
Somewhere where they're going to have more forage fish, which I think is pretty much what all us guides are looking for, is more forage, and then you'll get more fish.
Yeah.
Until they're full.
Did you guys run any trips together for muskie? Remind me. Or would you just kind of?
I can't remember. I don't think we did. I think
it was all bad.
You and Nick did. Yeah, you and Nick did too.
And I did. And I floated with Nick a couple of days too.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Hunter and I.
We did that. We did Jerry's trip late.
Yep.
You guys will be able to be jet boat buddies next year.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the weight difference is and like how much more water Power Drifter can get through than.
Yeah, I guess. What are you getting, dude? Tell us.
Shamu's a barge. We're looking at the Stealthcraft 1654. I've got
Power Drifter. Southweld, the Power Drifter. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it will be fiberglass. It's one thing I'm kind of working around in my head, whether or not that's going to be a kiss of death or not. I don't want to hit one rock, but it seems like there's enough of them on the market out there that if there were problems along that line, I would have seen it by now. People are pretty pretty blatant if they're upset with something to show everybody. So
yeah, and he builds those things kind of like brick house. It'll be lighter, and then you won't have to use as much power. What are you putting on the back? Like a 40?
60-40 Merc.
Yeah, that thing will glide.
Yeah, it should be great. And it's already got a Tarova on it. It's already got oars on it. It's all wide open
now, not just a rower.
Yeah, that's going to be, well, maybe. I don't know.
They're not, they take a little bit off, but then you're just they break. They don't work all the time. They have to sink.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to get myself into a point where I can't do it. I have to have it to be able to guide, I want to be able to row. And I think that boat is going to really offer the best situation for that. Yeah. It's supposed to, they row like awesome. They need about 2 inches of water to run them in at full speed. And then with it being
go a little bit better because they're a lot lighter than the stealth welds.
Yeah, they'll just scooch. They'll weld. I mean, you feel like you're in the military in Josh's boat. Like there's no.
I love it. I love it. Is it a center console or a tiller?
Tiller. Yeah.
Nice. Yep. When do you get to pick it up?
As soon as the drift boat sells. So anybody out there is looking for a Montana.
Yeah. What do you got? What are you selling?
I've got a 2017 Hyde Montana skiff that's on the market right now. So if anybody's interested.
Very ideal setup for the Midwest. Can you tell us why? I mean, I know what I think, but you probably have reason for it.
Yeah, it's great. Like throughout, I've had five hides, and they all have a bit of a rocker to them. And the Montana skiff, they removed most of the rocker, which is awesome because then it allows you to put like a 3.5 horse is what I have, and I have a short shaft too, which a lot of guys. With drift boats, will have to go to a long shaft. So that just means the motor's deeper. It's going to hit stuff. This one with the motor down, it's only about 3 inches below the bottom of the boat while we're going along. So it goes through.
It glides a little bit.
Yeah. And it also doesn't get like the rocking horse effect nearly as bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great for figure eighting. And it's got the rod trays on the top deck.
The rod trays are super nice.
Yeah. The rod trays are awesome.
I don't like the bench, and you have the open. It's not a bench.
I would say I have storage seats for the front and the middle, and then the back person is a bench that goes gunnel to gunnel, so you can easily slide a boat bag underneath it.
Yeah.
No, it's a sweet boat. It's honestly it's a little bittersweet going back and forth because I have all these pictures of my son who's now 7 sitting in a car seat going down a trout stream in it. So it's going to be a little weird not doing that, but
motorboat.
It'll be nice getting done at the end of the day and just being like, dude, I'm switching boats. Let's go play on the sandbar. Let's do it.
Exactly. Sweet. That's going to be sweet. So back to Musky. How will you use the boat? Do you think it'll be a huge change in your Musky program, or do you think it'll be have more benefits to smallmouth? How do you think about it?
I think it'll probably have more benefits to smallmouth, but and I say that largely just because most of my musky water is much smaller water. I feel like, as far as other companies or myself go, I feel like I'm usually on smaller rivers that I'm not going to be able to do without the use of the Hooligan XL.
Most are not very jet boat friendly for muskies.
No, and hopefully it'll open up a few more spots though too, where we can get in below dams. That's kind of one big problem I have right now is you put a 3.5 horse motor and you have to go a mile upstream to get to the dam, and it's going to take you like an hour. And this will just be there.
We had that happen recently, where it was like we buzzed up, got there as fast as possible, fished 8 right in the morning, didn't eat the rest of the day.
Yeah,
it was a jet boat. Yeah, you probably could have put in. You probably could have put in your drift boat and floated down, but there was people who did that ahead of us, and we beat them to the spot.
Right. Yeah. If you want to be first, you got to have the boat that gets you to where nobody else can get to, and that hopefully will be the Stealthcraft 1654 power.
Wait, what color are you getting?
It's a sweet camo. The awesome camo veil.
Sweet.
It's actually a customer of mine that has it, and just kind of extended it out my direction since he wasn't getting any use out of it. So
Love it.
hopefully it'll all work out great.
Does he want a drift boat instead?
Unfortunately, no. Oh, we've talked of trade. Yeah.
There'll be somebody. There's not there's not enough of them over here, and that's a really good one. Pretty good condition. A really good condition, because what is it, 2010? 2000?
It's a 2017.
2017.
That's pretty
Yeah.
For-
No, it's
in great
it's
shape.
in awesome
Yeah,
shape. And the biggest, I mean, so over COVID, I feel like a lot of folks who had never rowed a boat before went out and bought them. And so no matter if it's, I mean, it could be a month old and have more damage than the bottom of this one has, because when the water is low, use my raft.
Well, and just set up. You've got it dialed in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
I have this boat. This is why my oarlocks are right here. I got the motor mount installed. I got the trailers maintenance every year. You're not getting used in
totally removable casting braces. Yeah, and then like the bottom isn't all beaten to hell either.
Right.
I've seen some
shines
because I'm on Marketplace. I see a lot of other boats on Marketplace, and it's like, wow, somebody learned how to row in that one.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it'll go places.
That's good. So how did the kickoff to muskie season go? Early or mid to late September? How was the fishing for you guys?
Yeah, it went. I feel like it kicked off really well. The first couple of trips I had, we had really good activity, fish following. Water was still low, but the fish were pretty eager. And then I got sidetracked for a week on the Bob White Musky Madness trip, and then came back and we got right back into them, which was really nice. The Musky Madness trip unfortunately fell during a bad moon phase, weather phase. Like there's just a lot of things lined up.
A lot of
horribly.
Fun that we're not getting into them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then it was nice. I mean, the very next day coming back, we got like a 41 and a 38. Yeah. So it was like, all right, well, back home. Like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Videos from that, and I think it was a dam. The background was a dam with live scope, and I was like, "Ooh, fishing must be tough."
Yeah, and I, as a
not hunter,
yeah, as a fly fishing guide, I don't have live scope. I don't have any of that stuff. So,
it's, you good in your new boat? Are you going to get live scope for the new jet sled? I'm asking facetiously because I doubt it.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I actually just fished with a guy who had live scope, and I felt like the whole time. So if I was musky fishing by myself, I would have fished the whole stretch. Like I would have just fished it. And I would have had a great time. And at the end of the day, I would have thought, they didn't want to bite. But instead, we had live scope. And you end up doing more, video game, turning the thing around. Then you want to see, well, maybe I'm not seeing it. So you're putting your fly down there to see if your fly moves around and sets it off. And then it's like the whole time you're more worried about this. Yeah, you're more worried about this $3,000 thing than accidentally throwing one and letting it swim in the middle of the river instead of the left side, or switching around. So, I don't think it's definitely not going to be something it's not going to be something I dive into. It's just like video game.
On or off, and the on seems to be like,
you can't do anything without this.
Yeah. No, I said this to Josh before too. If we're in the boat and it's the three of us and we're operating the boat with a trolling motor, we're fly fishing. The third guy is, I'm gonna eat my snack and drink my drink and press the buttons. But I might poke that thing around and be like, oh, cool. What's Josh's fly doing? Oh, look at it. There's Hunter's fly. Cool. And you might pick up some things. Like, oh wow, there's a follow that we wouldn't have seen. But I can't drive around and just stare at it and be like, nope. Because for me, there's just like too much unknown of like, but what about what I'm not seeing? What about the fish that isn't picking up?
Right. What if it's 60 feet away?
What if that's a sturgeon instead of a muskie? Or
yeah. When we were out the other day, we actually had one where I was just casting, and dude called back. He was like, "Oh, you got one following all of a sudden," and I mean, that thing must have just murked in from like 20 feet outside of the visible range, and then followed all the way back to like 15 feet away and then just vanished again. while you could still see the carp down there
Mhm.
circling. So it's
Mhm.
like, man, yeah, no, I think gadgets are handy, but a lot can be said for just like 15, 20 minutes of practice the day before your trip.
Yeah. And knowing where you're going. Will you
Yeah.
put any type of electronics on your new boat?
Yeah, I'll have a depth finder just to be able to like check temperatures and stuff like that
Sure.
in depth. But yeah, I don't think anything real crazy. I haven't really even looked into it
Yeah.
very much because for the last 15 years it hasn't been something to think about.
Mhm.
Not a lot of drift boats with live scope.
No.
Although it might be really nice on the Hooligan.
Yeah. I think it's just up and down and batteries, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I know some people that have done it.
Oh yeah, no, I don't doubt it.
Yeah, you can't really drag your boat with a transducer hanging off of it, so you got to raise it up.
They're all adjustable.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else on muskie season, man? You guys had a hot streak.
It was
that after Bob White. So it was kind of like
yeah.
Bob White was like the halftime on the 2 hot streaks. Was that more?
Well, it was like a warm up. I had like 4 days before the Bob White thing where it was really like this musky fishing is what we're gonna do today, and then we did the Bob White thing, and then it took a week to put the rear end back in my truck,
Mm-hmm.
and then right away, I mean, I had out of like 30 days this year, I think I only had 2 days get skunked, so that was
yeah, it was pretty sweet. There was like a 3 in a row period where there's some chunky fish.
Oh yeah.
What were some of the nuggets from this season that kind of stuck out as that was like what mattered, or that's what we kind of had to figure out, and that's what was making that happen?
Well, like I said, that one river, the inside bends, it was like they didn't really eat on the outside bend because they were all, I think, looking for frogs or whatever else was foraging on frogs in those leaf piles.
We had that up in October. That was,
oh yeah,
remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That shoot was, we saw the same thing. It wasn't necessarily leaf piles, but it was all inside bends.
Yeah, that's some sort of just a happy place. I think it's a happy place for frogs because after noticing that they were all coming off of there, then we kind of took the drift boat and went right over it and saw a couple of fish spook away from the leaf pile, saw a couple of dead frogs right in the leaf pile. So it's like, I think maybe
how often are you finding yourself doing that on guide trips, especially for muskie, where like I think a lot of what we see is the common behavior for most folks with muskie is fishing in the past, fishing a spot that someone told you about where you saw a fish, and then it's just kind of going there repeatedly.
Yeah.
And I think we've all learned a little bit, at least I know I've fished enough with the two of you, that like you kind of have to think, you gotta go outside that frequently. Those spots will produce, but they're not.
And that I think is just like the lake training that a lot of people have. A lot of folks that get to go muskie fishing for their first time, whether it be on the chain of lakes down there or up, somewhere in northern Minnesota or northern states or whatever, that lake fishing, it's like, all right, we're going to go to this pin, we're going to go around this weed bed, and then the next boat will come show up, and then you've got 2 boats going around the same weed bed. And it kind of gets back to even earlier in our talk where if I'm going down a river, that fish gets one chance. If it doesn't show that it's active and doesn't show that it's home, we're still going. We're fishing everything you possibly can. Whereas, like in that scenario or some of the other scenarios, it almost always seems like it's a lake angler situation where it's like, oh no, if they're not on this weed bed, well, we're just going to keep doing hot laps until they come back, and it's not that way in a river. You get the fluctuation of the water, they get the fluctuation of the temperatures, which they don't get. You get it
especially in September and October too.
You get it in the lake, but you don't get it in 2 hours. Yeah,
right.
So that's kind of the biggest thing is like we don't stay put in too many spots, but on some of the spots where I've expected to see fish or after a while of 2 or 3 days of seeing fish, if all of a sudden I go through a spot that's like, all right, well, this had the same rock and the same drop off and the same, where the hell did they go? I'll cruise over there a lot. A lot of the times they're still there. They just had something an hour ago to eat or something like that they're not willing to play. I actually saw one this year with a tail sticking out of its mouth as it swam away. So I was like,
Missed him. He's not going to.
yeah, 10 minutes too late. But yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask you. So, when you're planning a day on the water with some folks for a trip, what are the things that go through your head into deciding where you're going to fish that day? What are all the factors? What are all the things that go into it?
Yeah, it may sound horrible because I don't come straight out and ask people, what their physical ability is or whatnot. But usually the first thing that comes to mind is I got to figure out where they're staying. If I've got somebody staying like 2 hours away, which sometimes people book places where they want to fish and where they think it would be where you're going to fish. So sometimes I run into that. I had to run over to the other times this year because folks had hotel rooms. Yeah, I usually look at that. I'll look at flows. I'll look to see if maybe upriver from a system there's been water added, whether it be from a hydro dam or whether it be from a recent rain. The state of Wisconsin's kind of cool because these are all like our watersheds. So if it rains above these knuckles, then only these top parts are going to be affected for like the first 2 days. And then it works its way down. And then we've got, the 3 main watersheds pretty much all run parallel with each other. So if it rains really hard in Eau Claire, I can shoot over, closer to where maybe they only picked up a quarter of an inch of rain or something. And that water level maybe won't change. Or maybe it will change.
When you have the Great Lakes and you have like like you said earlier,
Yeah.
always somewhere to go where the thunderstorm isn't really hitting. Rarely. It does happen once in a while. Do we get these like all-encompassing state? Everybody's getting drenched or everybody's dry. But there's usually pockets.
I was gonna say really the biggest thing is like I can't think of a piece of water that I go past that I don't try to look. And that's the thing. I think almost I know Josh does the same thing. Like at any given time, me, Josh, Gabe when he used to guide for me too, you could have called one of us and been, all right, well, out of the 3, which one's going to fish the best? And between temperatures and looking at water levels and whether or not they're peaking or if they're slowly dropping or anything like that, I feel like all 3 of us, and there's plenty more, are usually great at being like, well, this is where we're going to go, not because it's my only beat. I mean, there's from, I'm located in Eau Claire. Josh is located in Eau Claire. From Eau Claire, there's like 15 rivers you can float for muskies within an hour and a half. So that's a big plus.
At least. Yeah. And there's a lot more water than just those rivers. Yeah. And it speaks to, I think it's not just for guiding though, that I think that's an important message. It's definitely important for guiding. I mean, I think that's why we really like the program we have with all of you guys is because there isn't a beat that gets beaten. And then you begin to rely on it as your this, and then you start to impact it a little bit positively and negatively. Spreads out pressure, but I think that should be like the ideal for everybody when they're fishing. That's what allows you to have these patterns emerge.
Yeah.
And this is the hot spot to be right now, but it might not be tomorrow. But if you just go to the same spot all the time, there's not really a good reason for it other than ease. Just that's the easiest option, but it's
right. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, Josh will attest too, like we could be anywhere. So like we're almost impossible to track. And I've had, oddly in random spots, I've had notes left on my car about like the fishing pressure going down or going up. And it's like, well, we're untrackable. Like I could be on the spread ourselves out. Yeah. They're big rivers. Whereas, you talk to some areas where there seems to be a higher percentage of guides, let's say, more resorty areas. Man, those guys are like ready to kill each other because, they're on my water, and it's unfortunate. It's all public water. State of Wisconsin.
Do you think that will have to change in the next several years with Wisconsin? Like, where do you stand at? We're dealing, the DNR, for instance, they're well underfunded, and one area that's like seemingly sticks out to me, and I'm curious for your perspective, is like it's $40 for a guide license. It's what, $100 for out of state.
Yeah,
It seems like to someone like you who's been doing this for a while, it may be out of your pocket to pay more for that, but it might be beneficial. I don't know.
Yeah, I prefer personally. I don't necessarily believe that you pay for professionalism, but you definitely pay to keep the unprofessional people off doing whatever they do, and this is year 10 of basically not having winter jobs, and this being my only employment. So like, if I don't do good in a day, or I lose my demeanor with a customer and they're not going to come back, that's drastically going to affect my life throughout the rest of my guide career, whether that person tells 10 people or he just goes home and says,
right.
Not doing that one again, and I feel like that's maybe the thing people should look at in booking guided trips, is not necessarily, well, this is the cheapest guy, so we're going to book him for the day. I feel like any of the professional guides, let's say in Wisconsin, we're all friends. We all know each other. We all know Tim from Tight Lines. We all know Brian from Lunds. Like we all converse, and I think personally an out-of-state guides license being much higher than an in-state guides license would be a good thing, and I don't really have a problem with the in-state guides license going to a couple $100 either.
Right.
Just to kind of, keep the beaten up John boat drunk guy showing up to guide you out of the scenario.
We've seen it go wrong in other states. And then I think it had to almost be permitted, but then there's kind of, you can't get it all back because you're grandfathering a lot of that. And then we are absolutely affecting these places. And the more we do it, the more we're conscious of it.
Yeah. And it goes back to even cleaning the boat. Like being a good guide isn't just getting the person fish. It's, like looking for ways we can better our water in the future. Helping out groups like Smallmouth Alliance and Trout Unlimited. Keeping money local, shopping at your local fly shops. They're the people. I mean, look at, you guys with the shop, but we also have our reps down your guys' way. There's things coming out in the fishing industry just for Midwest fishing. Granted, they're, dispersed throughout the whole world, but there's ideas that come back from the guides, the professional guides that have, guides license, but insurance and these.
Well, it's more than just
companies.
I think that's what I was kind of picking apart with you. I know you're humble about it, but from my perspective, it's like the will to do it at the top level, and like being honest with yourself of like, I'm gonna go and not pick up somebody else's program and copy paste. And I'm gonna kind of. You always are trying to do your own thing, and I think that's to be celebrated. I don't hear it enough.
Thanks.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna be the guy on the soapbox because then you don't have to. But I think that's it makes it all go round a little bit. It makes the whole thing work. If we all just go to the same spot, it sucks. The fishing will suck for all of us then.
Yeah.
It won't arbitrage. It won't work. So
I mean, my goal, I was just talking to somebody the other day about it, and really as guiding goes along, my goal is to take people to have an experience that they otherwise normally wouldn't be able to do on their own. There's tons of guys with drift boats. Right. There are tons of guys with drift boats that will also drag their drift boat 60 yards, put it in the water, and then make sure that you can comfortably float all day while carrying all your gear. I don't think I don't think there are.
Yeah.
There's a lot on established boat landings and stuff like
Well,
that.
but even just taking the time to try and pattern a place and be like, we're not
Yeah.
going to go here anymore, even though that's the river closest to my house that I've been on 5 times, and I know there's some there, and it would be easier for me because I want to be home at 5.
Yeah.
Like, you're not that type of guy, and I think that's what's sweet is like, no, he's going to work his butt off to get like to the next spot that there might be less people or more fish or better conditions, and you can kind of count on that.
Yep. Yeah, there's days we'll pull into boat landings and turn around and go right to a different one. There's already a boat there. You know, it's not our...
God damn it, there's Bam Bam's car. I hate that guy.
It's not our prerogative to stack you up and have you go third boat down a run or anything like that.
Yeah. We kind of we're over an hour and a half. This has been awesome, dude. Anything I'm missing? Anything you want to ask Josh? Talk about Hunter? Anything you want to soapbox about? This was fun, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, having a great time. Just tying flies in my basement, waiting for the water to get softer.
Yeah, we covered.
Or get harder and then get softer.
Do you ice fish?
No.
Me neither. That's my response.
It's like shooting ducks through a chimney. I do not do it.
No, I can stop fishing for all of 2 weeks and wait for trout. Yeah, you do a little bit, don't you, Josh?
Yeah, I love ice fishing. It's a blast.
Not this year, so
not yet.
There's just so much tying to be done.
Tying,
like
you're tying bugs.
Yeah, I mean, like as soon as the season's over, I don't sit in the basement the rest of the year. But as soon as the season's over, you got to get ready for another 10 months of fishing and not being able to sit in the basement. You'll find that out with a young child at your house.
I haven't tied a single fly since Lucy was born. I thought I was going to be some tying fiend. I was going to be no, not once.
And it just becomes so much more important to like go, as much as I dread it every day, but going to the skate park or stuff like that, like they grow a lot in those fun activities in the last 2 hours.
That jet boat around, and then you can just be up in the front and get your massage from Eddie.
Oh yeah. He'll get the little thumb play thing. He'll be all set to go.
There you go. Well, that's all I know, fella. Again, thank you. This is awesome. I think it was a lot of fun. Covered a lot of good stuff. It sounds like a hell of a year.
It was a good time.
Everybody, if you want to fish with him, hit us up. Hit up Wisconsin Fly Fishing Co. Calendar.
Or Musky Fool.
Yeah, hit us up. We're here. The calendars are open. Trout.
Oh yeah.
Smallmouth. Musky. If you're lucky, he might take you steelhead fishing.
Yeah, might be going over there Friday.
Yeah, you got to earn it. It's like the goblet of fire with Hunter. If you can go trout fishing, you might get invited bass fishing. If you can bass fish, you might go musky fishing, and then
usually it goes smallmouth, and then maybe you'll get invited trout fishing, or maybe you'll get invited musky fishing. It really depends on your casting. If you're the dude who wants to throw really big stuff all day, well, then you're going musky fishing in a month.
Yeah, I haven't made the cut. He hasn't invited me trout fishing, so I've just been allowed to bass fish with Hunter thus far. I'm hoping in 2024 I get my black belt, and maybe we can.
Oh yeah, go ahead and enjoy that.
Well, that's all I know. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Spot Burn Podcast. You got Josh and Dan signing out.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, Hunter.
Hey, have a good one, boys.
Thank you for listening to the Spot Burn Podcast. Coming to you from the dungeon, this podcast is presented by Musky Fool Fly Fishing Co. We want to thank our awesome sponsors, Cortland Line Company and Stealth Craft Boats. We also want to thank all of you, our listeners, for tuning in, subscribing, sharing, and spreading the good word. If you haven't heard, go check us out at muskyfool.com. Have fun out there on the water, y'all.